In the last video, we talked about this experiment we're doing. We've got two groups of students. One group received soda without caffeine, one received it with caffeine, and then they were compared against each other as to whether there was an increase in their heart rate. So we talked about doing these two groups prevents confounding variables. So hopefully the two groups are very similar, and the only change that we made was the caffeine. And it should also reduce variability. And that would be because we're controlling for things like the amount of the soda that each group received. So let's take a look at two graphs that represent the change in pulse rate for both of these groups. Let's take a look at what each of these mean. So this first graph is showing the group where they controlled the amount of soda. So these were the students who did have caffeine and these did not. And they were all given the exact same amount of soda. You can actually see in the no caffeine group that several students, this represents that their heart rate went down by 2 beats per minute. So this all shows an increase of around 6 beats per minute after they were given the caffeine. Over here, the students self-selected how much soda they could have. So you can see probably these students didn't have a lot of soda and these maybe drank a lot. That would be my assumption. But you can see how much variability. There's a lot of spread, and we'll get to that later. Believe this is chapter 1 stuff. This huge amount of difference. And that's not good. We don't want these kind of variations because now we're seeing a lot of difference due to this lack of control. It's also important that all the subjects in both groups are blinded. And what this means is we don't blindfold them, but we do not let them know which treatment they're receiving. They're not going to have any idea whether they received the caffeine or the no caffeine. We probably wouldn't even tell them. We would maybe just say the effects of soda, or that we may not even mention that we're studying the effects of specifically caffeine, because otherwise the members of the no caffeine group might suffer from the placebo effect. And this happens when someone receives a treatment and they think they're actually getting the treatment and not the placebo, which is the fake treatment. And they improve anyways. This is a psychological phenomenon that happens, that people, when they think they're receiving a treatment, actually start to feel better, or their heart will increase when they think something is happening. And also, if the researchers or the people measuring the responses are also blind, in other words, the people giving the soda have no idea who's receiving which soda, then we call this a double-blinded experiment. Now, just a quick note, not all experiments have to have a control group or use a placebo. So don't think that that's a requirement. It's just something common, especially in medical research and other kinds of things where we're dealing with human beings. So for example, if you're testing a new drug, you don't want to take the participants off their drug because they're getting, help from that. So usually we just start a new drug. We compare one drug or one group to the new drug, and the other group who's using the old drug. We compare the results between those two, because it's just not ethical to take people off their medication and not let them know that you're doing that. So that's a better way to go. Also, you can do an experiment like just comparing 4 brands of paint. You really don't need a placebo or a control. We're just comparing the paint in general. So why are we doing all this randomization, replication, control? It's to make each treatment group nearly identical. So we even want to make sure like the two groups receiving the soda are in the same room at the same time, because there could be something just in the room that makes the heart rates go up. And if everybody's heart rate goes up at the same time, then there's not going to be a big the both groups should have the same increase, so that the difference would be the same for both groups. And here's the biggest part of experiments. When we're done, how can we feel confident that we've got the results that we can start to make different decisions or keep our decisions the same as they currently are? So the results of an experiment are called statistically significant if they're unlikely to occur by random chance. That is, it's unlikely the results are due to just random imbalances. Let's say we compared two groups of students and we gave both groups of students caffeine in their soda. Then we would still expect to see some difference. One group will probably have a higher increase in heart rate than the other, but that's just chance. That's just the nature of things. So we expect that chance. If our results are larger than the expected chance just due to random assignment, then that's what we call statistically significant. So we are going to be talking about this concept a lot in class, but let's take a look at these two graphs. So for example, this group is definitely much lower heart rate change than this group. I would bet, although I haven't done the math behind it, that this group does show a statistically significant difference, that we can say that caffeine does increase heart rate. However, this group, because of the overlap and the variation, we've got a lot of students whose heart rate change was very similar. We really can't say that there's any statistical significance in that second graph. So just to recap what I said and put it in writing, we can calculate the range of values to reasonably expect by chance. You don't know how to do that yet. That's part of this class that you'll learn later on in the year. Then if the results, let me add an N there, then if the results of our experiment fall outside that range, we say our results are statistically significant. Let's go through just a couple more definitions and then I'll wrap up this video. We'll often talk of a matched pairs design, and this is one of those that gets overlooked a lot by students. But when two treatments are given to the same subjects at two different time intervals, that's a matched pairs design. This is a great way to ensure that the groups are identical, and that should be the number 2. So basically what we're saying is that the same students are in the caffeine group and the non-caffeine group. So maybe one day I'd have the class come in. I would split the class into two groups, but you wouldn't know which group you were actually in. Some of you would receive the caffeine that day. Some of you would not. And we would record your results from your pulse rate and whether your pulse rate had increased. Then the next day you would receive the exact opposite treatment. So if you got caffeine the day before, you would get the caffeine soda the next day. So that's how matched pairs would work. So yes, we could use it. I don't know that we would. It would be interesting, see if it works, because once you do it that first day, could it alter the effects of the next day? The other thing that's really important to do is because the days could make a difference in somebody's pulse rate. So it's very important that we randomize who receives which treatment the first day and who receives it the next day. Just to summarize that, on day one, you'd randomly select half the class to receive the caffeine-free soda while the other half receives the regular soda. You'd record the pulse rates, and day two, you'd switch the treatments and run the experiment again. Finally, I want to wrap up with blocking. I am not going to spend a lot of this time on blocking because I have actually a great activity to do all about blocking. So we're going to cover that a little bit more in class. I would like you to read through this page and be prepared to answer questions on it. But since it's a lot of words and you don't need me to read to you, I'm going to let you go ahead and read through that. So let me know if you have any questions and we'll do more activities in class.